All right, welcome to my MAD PD session on bringing STEAM into your ELA classroom. Joining me is Robin, if you'd like to say hi.
Hi.
All right, thanks. Robin is our wonderful librarian, makerspace queen at our school, and she's going to join in and give us some other tips and see some of her experience as she goes. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and get our presentation started. And let's see. All right, we're going to present to everyone here and go full screen. All right, Robin, I just want you to confirm, can you see my screen here?
I can see your screen.
All right, so you should be singing to bring some STEAM into your ELA class. For those of you that are joining who want the information at the end, if you go down at the bottom of the screen right in through here, you can see the shortcut for the URL that will get you to the right place. So if you haven't done any kind of STEAM in your ELA classroom, a great way to get started is through novel engineering. And so I'm just going to give you a little brief about myself. I've been an elementary teacher for 20 years. This is my second time presenting for MAD PD. I am a Google level 1 and 2 certified educator, as well as certified MIE, Flipgrid ambassador, as well as certified teacher on Epic. You can see on that previous slide, there are links to my Twitter, I am a blogger, my email, as well as my class screen. So if you want to email me or get a hold of me at any time, Twitter or email are great ways to do that, and I can answer any questions. All right, so first let me talk a little bit about what novel engineering is. If you are on the presentation itself, then you can click on the link and it will take you straight to the Tufts University website about novel engineering. And they describe it right there as using existing classroom literature to help identify problems, solutions, and engage in the engineering design process. I always get that backwards, while in reinforcing literacy skills. And I found this to be a great help in not just getting my students to do better with their engineering, but also to do better with their understanding of what's going on in the story. All right, so here's a quick graphic on the novel engineering design process. You've got your engineering process down here on the right-hand side, just kind of give you a little bit of idea. I'm not going to show a lot of this video, but thanks to Robin for sharing this. I did this in my class, excuse me, to get them to understand what the engineering design process was, and it was cute. And so I am, gonna see if I can click on that. There we go. Just give you a little blurb of it. It's a catchy little tune.
Here to break down the engineering design process. We also call it EEP. Let's go. Ask the right questions. Imagine how to solve them. Plan out each and every move. Create a solution to the problem. See what works and then improve.
All right, so that's just a little bit of the video. You can watch the whole thing if you go onto our slideshow. The next thing I'm going to click on here is something that I've used in my class with the novel engineering process. And what it did, pardon me, is to get the kids to understand what they're doing. And again, you have the link to this if you want to use it in your classroom. It just kind of talked about, we focused on problems and solutions, and the students looked at 3 problems from their story. The first time we did it this year, we did it for a variety of students and a variety of novels. So they could pick anything from their story that was a problem. We kind of looked at what were some of the questions they had about it. Then we had to find some possible solutions. I took it up a level and had them do a Google drawing to add a little bit of tech in there to what they were doing. And then they actually created their solution in the physical realm. So they actually had to build it. And all right, we're going back here. So this is kind of basic. This, I again got this from their website, but the students have to read any kind of book. I've done it with picture books. I've done it with novels. So any kind of book. And the best way to do it is to identify problems that the character is facing, problems with the storyline, anything that can get them to brainstorm and to look at different ways to solve it. When they design their solution, one of the things I found is that the kids have a hard time figuring out a solution that's not in the novel. So the first time we did it with a picture book, and half of the class without instruction did it where they had the exact same solution that the novel or the picture book already had, and they just made it in real life with cardboard and paper and that kind of stuff. The other class, half of the class, did what I wanted them to do without me telling them to, but they found a problem in the story that wasn't solved, or they found a problem in the story that they solved differently. And so it was really getting them to think about, well, would that character solve it the way you did, or would you solve it differently? And they had to think of multiple solutions. I had several kids who tried a solution and they found out, well, either they can't find those materials in the setting of the book, or we didn't have them in our makerspace when we were doing that. And so they had to rethink about how they were going to solve that problem. And that's kind of where that feedback comes in. It was from other students in their group. It was from me asking them questions about their solution. It was from just the natural feedback process of, wait, this does work or this doesn't work. And then they all improved their designs. And the last part that's really important is they got to share it. And so they share it with not just their own group members where they have to talk together or other groups, but they were also sharing it with the class as a whole, especially when we did it with different novels. And every group shared it with another novel, so that you had students who got to know a second book without having to read it to decide, hey, that's kind of a cool book. I want to see what happens. We've also done it with nonfiction books. So my class read The Quest for the Tree Kangaroo, and it was all about finding this tree kangaroo to be able to catch them so that scientists can study them and figure out what's going on with their population, with their habitat and all that. And so I had my kids actually design a solution where, how could you design something so that they were never captured by the scientists, so that they actually could be totally in nature by themselves? And so it was very interesting to see how they applied that to a nonfiction story as well. These are some of my student samples. If you can, if you're on the image, you can click on it real carefully. These are they're drawing the trees and different, I think they were using a Google drawing at that point. And they tried to figure out how could monkeys go from one tree to the other? What could they design for those tree kangaroos? Sorry, not the monkeys. The two on the top right are when we did Westlandia last year, and they had to figure out how they were going to solve some of the problems. He was a lonely child who created this whole world, and so they were looking at different things from that character. At the bottom, both of these boys were doing Guns for General Washington, and they both picked the same problem of where the cannon was so heavy that it broke the cart, and how are we going to get that cannon to new places? And they both came up with totally different situations. They were allowed to work as a partner or a group of three or by themselves. And it was always interesting to see what children chose what avenue. For more examples from the Novel Engineering website, you can click on the button for more examples, and that'll just give you different ideas. One thing I noticed that the Novel Engineering website started, I think it was 2 years ago, they create challenges. And if you click on the link up there, you can see what the challenges are. But they put out to a whole group of people what you read in your classroom, and you can read it whole group. You can have kids read it independently, whatever you want. And then you submit it to this committee, and people that are all involved get to vote on what is the best solution that the students created. And these are just a couple of the books that were recently on it. I believe Shiloh and When the Relatives Came was this winter's challenge. And I got an email the other day asking me to vote on the best solutions that children came up with for the project. And I thought it was a great way to get kids involved, to get other classes to see what's going on out there and how kids are really stepping up their idea of problems and solutions, and the whole maker movement in one activity without a teacher having to do one more thing. If I do this presentation live, and these are just some of the books that I've come up with that are just picture books to give you an introduction into it. The True Story of the Three Little Pigs, or The Three Little Pigs itself, is a great one for the primary kids to start this idea. How do you build a better house that the wolf can't knock down? Or in the True Story, how can you figure out, what can you do to see if the wolf is really lying or not? Little Red Riding Hood, the same thing. How are you going to say Brandy before Brandy gets there? What can Riding Hood, do to help all that? Just a couple of the standards that they address through the novel engineering process. You've got your literacy, both in fiction and nonfiction, those mathematical practices, NGSS, the ISTE standards, history, social science, writing standards. All of it is addressed, speaking, listening as they're sharing, having them write about the whole process and what happens as they're designing and why they chose what they did, really gets those students addressing all of those 4 C's as well. So here, this is the end of my presentation. So there's my link again if you need that. And I'm going to exit here and stop sharing and get back to our Hangout. And Robin, would you mind addressing anything that you've noticed? I believe a couple classes have done it with you. And can you share a little bit about your information with that?
Sure. One of the things I was engineering is you can also hit on feels like empathy. For example, Mo Williams, Can I Play Too? Had a snake that wanted to play ball. And they, in the book, said, you can't play ball, you don't have arms. So the solution in the book was to play ball with the snake. What if we had them create something to give the snake an ability to launch a ball? That gets into real life, prosthetics. How can we make it easier for people with limitations? So there's a lot of different skill sets you can build on this and thinking about different approaches that then go into true life situations. The fairy tales usually have great opportunities. You mentioned a couple of them, but Goldilocks, maybe there's a way to make an adjustable bed that fits for everyone. So you can really deal with inclusion and a lot of acceptance and empathy. And the kids really do delve deeper into books with the novel engineering. So I've seen some really nice things come through, especially when you step back and you listen to them talking. And it's real helpful.
Yeah, I agree that the whole idea of this is not teacher run. The students are coming up with their own problem. It's not the teacher saying, okay, here's the main problem of the story, and I want you to figure out how to solve it. They come up with it themselves. And some books are really easy, like you said, the student who needed the help with, it was the lack of arms, correct?
Right.
Yeah. The snake with the lack of arms. Yeah, that is something that may not be the biggest problem in the story, but the kids would relate to how a snake gets around without arms. Or in when you do a full novel, there are so many different problems that a student can pick up on that it's not limited to what the teacher says. And I found that when I do this project with them, they are more critical thinking skills going on. The creativity skyrockets, and those kids that are not used to sharing with others, and they just kind of sit back and they let other people do the work because, okay, they're not that paper pencil kind of kid. They're the ones that have come up with the most creative solutions. And then because they're collaborating with their friends, now their friends are hearing their expertise, which normally they wouldn't. And then that whole communicate through sharing with each other and the groups. And when I did it last year with Westlandia, I had the principal come in and she walked every single group, and they all had to tell her exactly what the problem was, what their solution was, and why they decided to come up with that solution. It wasn't just, oh, look, we made this cool little thing with giant leaves and that was fun. They really had to get into it a lot more. And I think that it ups the fun factor. And when you can up the fun factor, the kids are going to pay attention to what's going on a lot more.
I think also that students often say with reading, when they're asked questions, there's a right answer. And the novel and the beauty is there's no wrong answer that could come up with it. So it gives them to delve a little bit deeper into the story without being scared they're going to be wrong. And I think that inhibits a lot of students. You know, they read a story and they know they have to test or comprehension or something. This way they could go into a story and let their imagination just drive them reading, which is going to enhance their reading also.
I totally agree. And the first time I do this, there's always that small group of kids who think, oh, wow, I am.
Diane, I can't hear you. I don't know if that's with other people too, but I can't hear you.